When we hear the word cancer, it often evokes an immediate feeling of fear. Our minds rush to the challenges ahead, the struggles, the uncertainty, leaving little space for something extremely important in this situation: hope. Yet, in the face of cancer, hope is the light that guides us. It's what carries us through the darkest moments and leads us towards healing. Today, we are here to share stories of hope, stories that inspire, uplift, and remind us all of the strength of the human spirit. These are stories that deserve to be heard, for they hold the power to change perspectives and instill hope in others. We are joined by two incredible women, Ms. Ranjeeta Vinil and Dr. Neeti Leekha Chhabra, both breast cancer survivors and thrivers. They will share their personal journeys of resilience, hope, and healing. Welcome to our podcast, Hope and Healing. After this long introduction, I really want to ask the both of you, forget surviving anything else. How did you survive so much of hard work and so many qualifications? How do you do it, guys? What gave you the motivation?
So, about qualification, I was enrolled for PhD before I got diagnosed with cancer.
Right.
And of course, after going through the treatment and starting the NGO, all of my efforts were somewhere else.
Right.
But few years down the line, when it was the last year to submit my thesis, the only thought that I had in mind is that I did not want to ever look back and think that I could not do something because of cancer. That is what made me complete my PhD, submit it in time before it was too late. And about the work, of course, I mean, if something, one of the major things that cancer has taught me is a bigger purpose in life, which is in form of the NGO that I run, Yes to Life.
Yes.
So it's given me a beautiful purpose, a direction in life, and I've been working towards it since 2014.
So I'm going to talk more about your NGO and your purpose in life that you actually found during your NGO, but I just want to go to her, to Ranjeeta. Please tell me, what was it that gave you so much of impetus to finish so much and so early? I won't even say finish. I think you just started yet with so much more. What gave you the motivation? And I'm talking before you were detected with cancer. Is it the same spirit that carries on?
Absolutely. I think as an individual, we're talking about a different era, right? I finished my B Farm in 95.
Right.
And then I did my MBA, was married already. But I think the instinct of being rebellious and wanting to achieve, being positive, making it happen, the drive was all there.
Right.
Pretty much used to be one of the 50 people in middle management, top management.
Right.
So even in the corporate life, all within by 30, I think I was vice president, enjoying a car, and enjoying being one of those women in a large group of 30 men for all my meetings. All of that
Did you
came.
control the AC temperature because it's actually tuned to men? Did you increase it? मैं आ गई हूँ, I will change it.
They all changed because I was there.
I like that. Boss vibes. I love
Yeah,
it.
because just think of the time. I'm talking about 96, 97, 98.
Yes.
Also, let me tell you, much before all of this happened, and we talk about it more of course later, I was handling India's most expensive breast cancer therapy portfolio for a multinational company, and in 97, 98 it used to cost 6.5 lakhs.
Oh gosh.
I couldn't, and because of my job responsibility, there were times that I had to, meet patients and see what they were going through, how they were suffering, and I didn't like it. I didn't feel good
And
about
all this before
it.
you
Much
were.
before. I was diagnosed of cancer in 2006, and I'm talking about 97, 98.
98.
Sometimes some things are made for a reason. I think that was the most expensive portfolio our industry had, and I was managing it. I couldn't deal with people suffering. The first thing, when the boss changed, I requested a change of portfolio. And as luck would have it, we say life is mysterious and full of surprises. In 2006, I myself was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Imagine. So you were in the middle of your PhD and you were handling a portfolio which you wanted to leave and eventually could empathize more with it since you were detected.
Absolutely.
Can we come to the journey of it? How was it for you Can I call you Neeti, not Dr. Neeti?
Yeah,
बोल दूं,
please.
थोड़ा सा informal लगता है.
Absolutely.
तो कैसे, how and when did you actually exactly know that this is what you have? What led you? Was it self-examination, or was it a regular checkup that you went to? How did you actually figure? How did you diagnose yourself? Or the doctors
So
diagnosed you?
I got diagnosed in 2012. I was
Right,
31 years old then,
right.
and I had never done a self breast exam. I had no awareness about cancer, leave aside breast cancer particularly. Nobody in my family ever talked about it, and I have been an extremely carefree person in my life.
Right.
So even when as a kid, if something happened to somebody in the family, I would not pay attention because I always thought, oh, everything's going to be fine.
31. What do you expect, bro?
Like very chilled out.
Yeah.
And cancer somehow always looked like a very filmy disease to me, like something that you've only seen in
Yeah.
movies. If somebody has to die, the doctor
Yeah,
always
yeah.
say, "Aapko
I had
cancer
the
hai."
same thing. I was like, this is a very Karan Johar movie. Kal ho na ho, Shahrukh ko उड़ा दो, अनुष्का शर्मा को उसमें उड़ा दो. जब खुद हुआ
So
मैंने कहा अरे यार ये तो
होता
असली में
है.
होता है. ये होता है. I agree with you. It's you actually feel, yeah, the worst can never happen to you,
Yeah,
right? You just
absolutely.
I
But
hear
I
you.
was very blessed because the lump was on the surface of my breast.
Right.
So it was just a chance encounter, either while taking bath or changing clothes, that
So
I felt
you
it.
figured it out yourself.
I just felt it while changing or maybe applying soap. And I thought that it's related to menses, since you do feel changes
Yes.
during menses.
Yes.
And I slept over it for 2 months. Those 2 months, it isn't that I was delaying it, but I forgot about it. I was so sure that it's related to periods that I forgot about it. 2 months later, I just chanced on it again. That was the time when I knew that something is very wrong, because something
Right.
cannot continue to be at the same place for
Yes.
2 months.
Yes.
And I was very naive. I actually Googled what to do if you have a lump in the breast. I didn't know what kind of a
Right.
doctor to go to. I didn't know that someone as a breast specialist also existed. So I found a doctor, got an ultrasound done. The report said that the lump was benign, non-cancerous.
Well, that's great.
So you can imagine how ecstatic me and my husband were.
Of
I
course.
remember we went back to the car and I shouted that, yay, I don't have cancer, and we enjoyed the whole day. But again, continued to be blessed. The doctor said that while we have a report that says it's benign, get an FNAC done, since it's a
Yes.
lump in the breast.
FNAC, just for our viewers and people who are
Yeah.
listening to us, is basically examination where there's an exploration.
With
They
an
sort of take a little bit of a sample, which is not very intrusive.
Yeah.
And so that's what FNAC is.
Yeah. And since the lump was on the surface, the doctor who was doing my FNAC said, oh, this is not cancerous. I can tell you, I see so many patients. And we were like, yeah, we know about it already. Just do it. And it's, just like it's something that's supposed to be done.
Right.
So when we got the report for FNAC, that is when we got to know that I had cancer. And on our way, so I was teaching at that time. I used to teach MBA students, and I got a call at my workplace from the center that the report is ready and come with a loved one. So I knew what the report would be. I called up
This
my
come with the loved one is such a bummer. But I
called up my husband. He said, okay, I'll come pick you up and we'll go to the center. And I feel somehow it's more difficult for a loved one to digest the news that someone has cancer.
Right.
In my case, at least, I felt, that diagnosis of your own self is easier to take in rather than
Right.
knowing about a loved one.
Right.
So when we reached there, I knew what the news would be. I was very much prepared mentally, and the doctor told us that. My husband was extremely, extremely distraught. Like he sat on the chair and the doctor told me, please look after him. He looks.
It was the other one, the other way around.
He said,
Oh.
he looks so tense and so worried. Please look after him. And from there, we went to my parents' house to discuss, and that is how it all started. And I was a mom by then. My son was 2 years old.
Right.
So on our way to our home, the only thought on my mind was, how am I going to tell my parents that their kid has cancer? I mean, even though I was 31, but
Yes.
to parents, kids are always kids, irrespective of the
course.
age.
No, but 31 too,
It's very young.
very honestly,
yeah.
I was very much in the naive space as well. And so when you even think of any disease happening, it's God forbid, I don't want to say old age, but it's always like 50, 60 plus. Tabhi hota hai, jo bhi
I
hota hai,
know.
right? 31,
Absolutely.
who's heard of
Yeah.
anything? And I was 35 when this
Hmm.
thing, and I thought I was the youngest, but when I spoke to the doctor, I was shocked with the statistics that were thrown at me. But more about that later. I'll probably now shift to Ranjeeta and ask her how was the journey. How did you discover, what phase of life were you in, and what led you to the discovery?
So for me, like I told you, I was aware because I worked with young oncologists and all of this, but it's because of my love for massage that my masseuse then in 2006 saw something which was unusual.
Yeah.
But it was like a mole.
Right.
It
Oh,
was like a little mole,
okay.
and I was working on a project which I had timelines to finish.
Right.
Even after being aware that
Dude.
there could be a chance, I thought, let me give this 2 months to finish the project because I had a lot of traveling, etc. And of course, my son was 4 then. I was also 31 or 32, I think. And uh, I could have done a little better there, but I just saw in 2 months' time it grew. And it just didn't feel right because we know that benign wouldn't grow so fast in 2 months.
Yes.
I was finishing the project, um, and then I went for mammogram. After I finished, I came back to Bombay, and the doctor radiologist told me something is not looking right here. So with the same report, because now I wanted to speed up everything.
Right.
And at this juncture, I was all alone doing this by myself, all by myself, because one, my husband he was a naval officer and he was posted somewhere else. So I was managing all this, and this is like a little bit of a melodrama here that you will understand. It was also my uh, day prior to my last day of my organization, which I had worked for 10 years. Um, so same day I went to Bridge Candy. The breast cancer surgeon, everybody knows him, Dr. Arun Kurkure, who's no more, did an FNSE. And the following day, I was supposed to get my report. And that was the day my long, lovely journey in the corporate with I worked with Aventis then, Sanofi Aventis, but was getting over. So there was a lot of nostalgia, a lot of memories. It was anyway a very heavy emotional day, leaving my cabin, handing over my laptop, and then I again go to Bridge Candy alone, and Dr. Kurkure tells me this is cancer. So I didn't call anybody. By now, nobody knew I was in Bridge Candy.
You went all alone.
I was alone. But Kurkure knew me. Dr. Kurkure knew me.
Yeah.
He says, "Okay, it's fine. I'm going to make room for you." I said, "I want to get admitted right away." I didn't have the money. I had nothing. It was last day, right? I told you of corporate, so there was no insurance covered, and I didn't even know what will I do and where because my husband was not even in Bombay. But I just decided to get admitted. When got admitted, I had my surgery. So here, I think I got admitted by 6:30 or 7 in the evening.
Right.
I had my surgery next day at 8 o'clock, and they were preparing me for surgery, like whatever
They
the whole
gave you
drill.
a surgery time in just 24 hours.
Yes,
Says I get
8,
done.
8:30.
It was that aggressive.
It wasn't. I wanted to get done now
Right.
because I delayed for 2 months. I thought now that I know it,
Right.
let me get done as quickly as possible.
Right.
And we know how people delay these decisions.
Of course.
So and how it impacts them. So I just decided, and of course because Dr. Kurkure was there was help there.
Yes.
Someone that I knew because of my professional professional work.
Yes.
That's the time I informed my parents. So
Hmm.
while getting prepared, my husband, who couldn't believe, I had my son, 4 years old son, at home alone, and of course my company. Because I had a long innings and lovely innings, of course they said, we're going to reinstate you. You'll be back with us, etc., etc. And here I was next day. My husband came, I think, in the morning, surgery that same day. He was in the hospital, and I think some friends around, and I was wheeled in. And only thing I was worried about was once the surgery is done, where will I be? Will you give me a poolside room? Because the previous day he put me in a junkyard room in Bitch Candy, which I didn't deserve. So I was so.
I love the battles that we choose.
So
Surgery
he's.
jai bhar room kaun sa milega
You know वो
mujhe?
poolside room Bridge Candy का बढ़िया है वैसे when you're admitted and you want to consult पहले भी रहे थे so um, I have had challenges with health
Right.
until.
So I was just going to sort of interject a little bit out here. She was the naive one, as was I. But you were someone who was associated with the field of it. You knew the no and how of it. The repercussions too, the treatment too, the expenses, of course. But apart from that, what comes along? And here you are detected with the same. Did the knowledge throw you off? Did it make you, was there more inhibition? Were you scared because of the knowledge that you already had? Was it detrimental in your healing journey?
No, I don't think it was detrimental at all. But I think beyond knowledge is individuality, personality, and how you look at life. Having said that, um, you know, like I was telling you, when I was getting rolled in, my whole worry was.
What do you mean I was getting old? Matlab,
Rolled in.
That's how
Rolled
rolled
in
in.
with
I was
the
like
OT.
old because in the beginning also she said
She
we are
mentioned
old. I was
her
like, what
age.
old?
I mean,
Where?
that's not what I feel at all. So no, so the whole I think whole point was, for me it was just a surgery, but
Right.
like you, and especially I'm talking about those days. Any cancer was a death sentence,
Yes.
and but I didn't look at it. You told me about, did this awareness knowledge make you scared? No, I just thought it was another surgery. It'll be over, and then I'll have to look forward to be in the room where I can have the swimming pool view. People, people around me, everybody was crying, parents, friends, but and I'm anybody who was there knows, and they still quote this. I was only thinking of getting the surgery done and getting out because I had my 4-year son waiting,
Yes.
and in the whole scheme of things, that's only thing that I was a little worried about, me not around him.
Yes.
Although I have always been a professional who's traveled this, but this is different.
This is different.
And for any mother or for any woman who has cancer and there is worry, how much ever bold we act, there is fear even today. Although we have a lot of latest treatments options available, etc.
Yeah.
And what also happens is when you are young, doctors also take a little more precaution.
Yes.
For me, it was stage 1, but I had a grade 3. So my lymph nodes, etc., were not involved, but the doctors took action and they removed everything. But it was fine. I was told you
How
can't
many
do
lymph nodes were removed?
all from my
Axillary.
right hand. Yeah.
All meaning?
Lymph nodes, all lymph
But
nodes.
there's a number.
Yeah.
There's a, like
Because
a
they
number.
didn't want to take
like
any
7,
chance.
11.
21 or something, no? How much is it? I
Yeah.
forget. If doctor can correct it, but all.
I'm going to talk to the doctor, but
For me, they did that, and I was told that you should not use this hand, but trust me, and I'll tell you, my love for strength training started from there. So, and I could do anything.
that's so amazing.
So I think for everyone, I mean, nothing happens, we have to face it, but I was okay.
Well, one thing I have found common amongst the both of you, one is from Delhi, one is from Mumbai, both very well educated, surrounded by educated people, experiencing life in the best of the ways that can be possible with all the love and the privilege. Yet, one thing that was common was that you both sat on it. And when I shared my journey, very honestly, I did the same because what can possibly happen to a 32 or 34-year-old woman? What can possibly happen? And this is nothing. And then you sit over it. Maybe I sat over it for about like 10 days, 15 days, or a month because the symptoms kept changing. But here are so many people who are not even exposed to the kind of privilege that we all have had and brought up in. And yet we sat. And I think that's the only thing that I have been trying to share. And I think both of you here are so brave enough to share. I'm just want to share with you all. I asked in the beginning of the podcast that are you both okay with me asking, or is there anything that you're uncomfortable with? They both were like, no, everything is there. And I understood where that sentiment was coming from. It was from a place that they want to spread awareness. They really, really want to spread knowledge as much as they can. And early detection is always helpful.
Absolutely.
But never ever sit on any symptoms. Here you felt that, going back to your office work is more important than actually going for an appointment, even though your masseuse told you, and you also ignored. And with God's grace, there's a lot of protection, gratitude for that. But I don't think none of us should even sit on a symptom for even a second, even if we are declared stupid and idiotic. It's okay.
Absolutely,
That's what I
true.
tell people. I think if there's something that you really don't understand and you think, just go get a self-examination. What's the worst? They'll say you're stupid. This is
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
Just
No, I
nikal
think,
jao.
Tahira, this is so very true because even today, a lot of educated women feel that not doing a mammogram is a good solution because हमारे family में किसी को हुआ नहीं है.
That's
And
right.
I think it's a myth कि अगर family में किसी को breast cancer नहीं हुआ तो मुझे भी नहीं होगा, because
Yeah.
I am a live example कि stress से हो सकता है, as simple as stress, if we call it simple. And yes, I am a live example. मेरे family में किसी को नहीं हुआ था, but I did have this ambitious girl who wanted to achieve in men's world, and I was
There is nothing wrong in that.
so
Very honestly, there's a lot of guilt also which goes behind this.
absolutely.
That I'm a very ambitious a woman
Absolutely,
as
I know
well.
it. Yeah,
But then at times it might go against us by when people try to put you in a box and because you're ambitious. No,
huh.
yeah, everybody's ambitious, but perhaps we did not deal with the stress levels as they should have been dealt with.
Absolutely.
That's the only
And
difference.
we all might we may all have cells which in different situation responds or reacts in a different manner.
Of
So
course.
for all the ladies out there, I think self examination तो चलो सीखना पड़ता है, but if we have a mandate कि भाई 40 years go get your mammogram done, and we should have no reservation and inhibition to do it, and we should do it.
Absolutely. And to support what you just said, there is a statistic that says that 1 in 10 women who get breast cancer are the only ones, if I'm not wrong, they get it from their family. Rest of them, it's not
Yeah.
even hereditary.
Yeah.
So 1 in 10 is hereditary, and rest of us, even in my case, I can say that it's not in the family.
So here you go.
And you say, so are you. And how about you, if I may
So
ask?
I had no high risk factor. Like again, no family history. I got married at the right age, had my son at the right age, breastfed him.
Yes.
So whatever they say should be taken care of was
Yes.
automatically being taken care of.
Yes.
But it still happened. And
Right.
had it been so much black and white, the youngest girl that we know who has been diagnosed with breast cancer is 16-year-old.
Yeah, I was told
You
to
know?
by my doctor at that
Yeah.
time, someone, a 17-year-old.
So whatever we talk about,
Yes.
about getting married at the right time, while of course all of those points are important, but it's important for us to understand that breast cancer can happen to anyone.
Yes.
Women, of course, who fall under certain high risk factors are at a higher chance.
Yes.
So the doctors may advise a different frequency of screenings for them.
Yes.
But women who do not fall under any such high risk factor can also have it. So
absolutely, it's just not a mandate that, of course, when they say you're married, you're breastfed, if these are just maybe those reasons that can help you mark off, but it's not that every woman who's not married, who's not had kids, will end up having breast cancer. I think that awareness also should be sort of shared with the women. It's just that
the chances increase.
I think a lot of it to do is also lifestyle, but I'll come more to it after I asked this question from you. Like, how was your treatment? What was your post-treatment condition? And were you recommended chemotherapies, radiation, surgery? I'm throwing in these words because it's a part of the treatment. And rest assured, the idea is not to scare, because early breast cancer detection is just not treatable, it's curable. The idea, this lovely hope and healing podcast is also to give hope to people that even if you end up having cancer, if it's detected early, you're in a good space.
So mine was an early stage breast cancer. I got diagnosed in stage 1, and I remember my doctor telling me कि तुम्हारा cancer तो बहुत अच्छा है. That was the time I was sitting across her and wondering how can any cancer be
To be
good.
nice.
But then when I read more about it, I understood that it was an early grade, early stage cancer. But while the lump was small, I also had DCIS, which was bigger in size. So while I was initially told that I'll have a breast conservative surgery, just a day before the surgery was to happen, there were more investigations happening, and they took me in a room for a final round of ultrasound, and that was when they told me that I have to undergo mastectomy, which means one side of the breast was to be removed. Those 10 minutes were very tough, because from thinking that it is only a very small portion of the breast to be removed, suddenly being told that your whole breast is to be removed, and not saying that it's easier for people who are older, but it makes it more difficult maybe at a very young age, because
of course it does. You're all of 31. I mean to say,
so
yes.
those 10 minutes, I remember when I was being taken for the ultrasound, I was shivering.
Yes.
But as soon as the doctor told me that this is what is going to happen, I accepted it, because the only thought in my mind was that if I can continue to live by losing an organ, like a body part, so let it be. And I have been so thankful to God that it was in a part that could be removed. Cancer are in vital organs wherein they cannot be simply removed, and you continue to live with them for much longer.
वो एक नजरिया है कि आप किस नजर से देखते हैं अपनी तकलीफ को. एक बेनिफिट के हिसाब से कि आप उसको एक कर्ज समझते हैं. With the both of you, I'm just so glad you didn't play the victim card. Most of us, whenever an issue sort of falls on us, तो हमें लगता है मैं ही क्यों. पर जब अच्छी चीजें होती हैं तब तक कोई पूछते नहीं. तो बट अब जब ये आ ही गया है, आई एम जस्ट सो ग्लैड आप इस वक्त यहाँ हमारे साथ इसलिए बैठी हैं, दैट सो दैट यू कैन शेयर द अवेयरनेस एंड अदर वुमेन डोंट हैव टू सफर. एंड इवन इफ यू आर डिटेक्टेड विद कैंसर, लाइक हाउ इन हर केस, अच्छा कैंसर अगर जल्दी हो जाता है, डिटेक्ट हो जाता है, द आइडिया इज wherever, I think whatever problem, if there's a solution, then I think it's protection of the highest order. It becomes sad or unfortunate अगर solution ही ना हो. तो जब तक solution है जिस भी तरीके का, I think that's life saving, right? That's a benefit.
And solutions do start once you accept it, because a बहुत major issue है जब आप डायग्नोज होते हो किसी इतनी बड़ी बीमारी के साथ जिसके साथ somehow you always have this word death associated. So acceptance comes very late most often. So like I said, that I accepted that it has to be removed, and I got partial reconstruction done at that time. So the doctor came and asked me कि आप किस type की reconstruction चाहते हो, but there was no time. That was just a night before I had to undergo surgery. And I told them whatever you feel is okay, do it for now, and I'll think about it later, because I had no knowledge, and how much could I have found over internet, a night before when I was admitted. So they did LD flap at that time, muscle from the back is shifted to the front, and post that I underwent proper chemotherapy. The doctor said that you're so young that we don't want to take any chances and leave anything behind. So while in an older patient we may have left chemotherapy, but for you we want to do it. So 4 cycles of AC or EC initially, and then I was given a choice of 4 Taxotere or 12 Taxol. I chose 12 Taxol.
ये सब चॉइसेस होती है. ऐसा लग रहा है कि हम दुकान पे गए हैं, ये वाली दवाई लेंगे कि ये वाली दवाई लेंगे, तो उन्होंने ऐसा कुछ ये दवाइयों के बारे में ही बात कर रही हैं. ये कीमो ड्रग्स हैं शायद जिनके बारे में बात कर रही हैं. पैक्लिटैक्सली उसी फैमिली की है. ज्यादा गहराई में नहीं जाएंगे. यही बताते हैं जैसे कि एक डिस्प्रिन होता है, एस्पिरिन होता है,
तो आपको कौन सी लेनी है,
आप कौन सी लेंगे. सो या,
and then hormonal treatment for 6 years.
Okay.
Mine was ER moderately positive. Tamoxifen for 6 years.
ये भी एक पार्ट होता है एक ट्रीटमेंट का. सो जहाँ पर जैसे, एंड एवरी केस इज वेरी डिफरेंट. यहाँ पर 3 औरतें बैठी हैं, एंड बहुत सी ऐसी औरतें हैं जो इसी प्रॉब्लम से जूझ रही हैं, बट सबका प्रोटोकॉल अलग होता है. कई बार हम ऑफकोर्स सपोर्ट ग्रुप्स रखते हैं, हम एक दूसरे से बात करते हैं, बट सबकी पेन्स, सबके साइड इफेक्ट्स, सबका प्रोटोकॉल ही अलग होता है, और टेस्ट अलग होते हैं. तो इन सब चीज़ों से घबराना नहीं है जब ये टर्म्स एंड जब यूज़ कर रही हैं. ये शायद इसलिए यूज़ कर रही है ताकि आप चाहे 20 हो, 31 हो, 40 हो, 50 हो, 60 हो, आप इतने नाइव ना हो इतने बेखबर ना रहें जैसे जो हम थे. I had
Yeah,
no idea.
absolutely.
Like she had to go into a surgery. She just told the doctor do whatever. Then the medicine was there. Maybe it's for the awareness is education is always good.
Yeah.
So the idea is not to throw anyone off with these terms, but to just make you aware.
And so, you know, when I was undergoing mastectomy, like the surgery part, so the doctor told me, you know, that with the LD flap surgery that we're doing, you will have a normal breast when you get up.
Yes.
So that is the idea that I had, you know, that okay, you know, so they've done full reconstruction and I'll have a normal breast as the other side. But when the bandages and everything came off, that is when I realized that it was a very small pocket that was formed, so to say.
Right.
It was not of the same
Right.
size and it wasn't a
Right.
proper reconstruction that was done.
Right.
3 years after that, I decided to get reconstruction done.
Right.
So, also, I think very important to share with the women who are listening that losing a breast to cancer doesn't mean that you cannot have your physical shape back.
Of course.
You can keep an artificial breast in your in your bra that I kept for 3 years.
Right.
And it gave absolutely the same shape, you know. So
Right.
except for me and my partner, nobody outside of it could say that I don't have a breast.
Right.
And 3 years later, I got, of course, reconstruction done. So
Right.
that's also an option. But
Right.
the point is that nothing should deter you from going to the doctor at the right time, you know.
Absolutely.
And this fear is actually one of the major reasons why women don't go to the doctors, fearing ki breast hurt jayega, while
But
in
they
most
fear
cases,
that, but
in most cases, अगर आपका बिल्कुल अर्ली स्टेज कैंसर पकड़ा जाता है तो ब्रेस्ट रिमूव होने की जरूरत ही नहीं पड़ती.
yes, that's true.
It's just a small part that has to be removed and your body image also remains intact.
That's true. That's true. I think there's so much more than just to one part of the body. You have a 2-year-old kid, son, daughter?
Now in 10th.
Now in 10th, but at that point of time
Yeah,
was
2-year-old
2
son,
years old.
yeah.
And at that point of time, your child was 4 years old. So there is so much more to look forward to, and so much depends on you that this is barely a cost to pay. In fact, it's a boon from the heavens above, from the doctors, that there is a solution, and after your operation you go and get back to start living life with your family. I want to ask you, how normal was it to, after your treatment we haven't spoken of, only if you want to share, and after that, how was it bouncing back to your normal life?
I think for me, after the surgery, I was out of the hospital and the chemo. So, kind of age we're talking about, and also the grade 3. So, it was pretty progressive. So, doctors wanted all kinds of treatment that was possible to be given to me, which meant chemo, radio. Also, I was totally ERPR and HER2 positive. Simply means every lady out there will be different. And also, I think very important to know is सबको सब ट्रीटमेंट लगती नहीं है, वो डिपेंड करता है. एंड दैट इज व्हाई वी टॉक अबाउट अर्ली डायग्नोसिस कि अगर बहुत ज़्यादा अर्ली हो जाता है तो खाली रेडियोथेरेपी से भी काम चल जाता है, कभी सर्जरी से भी चल जाता है. सो नथिंग टू गेट वरीड अबाउट इट. बट हैविंग सेड दैट, हम ये नहीं कह सकते कि देयर इज नॉट अ, दिस ट्रीटमेंट इज लॉन्ग ड्रॉन. If you have all the 3 given to anybody who's suffering. But once I started with my chemo, I think the first time the oncologist told me ki you are stronger than cancer, right? So I really took it personally. So har baar jab chemo, meanwhile it's very interesting, Tahira, I also changed my job because I didn't think morally right, because I had left that organization to be there because my decision was made. And my newer organization, the MD came and told me I was most welcome to join, and irrespective of my breast cancer, which then was like a death sentence. So I must appreciate them. So I did join the new company, and it was a smaller company and I had bigger responsibility. So not only that I was managing my chemotherapy, I told you my husband was away, and the whole piece of this information I'm sharing for all the ladies who are going to hear this, that it's all possible. I used to go for my chemotherapy almost alone. I used to be dressed like I was going to office. I used to meet patients because there were so many people who were suffering. When the chemo days, you go to that center, somebody was relapsed, 3rd time. People just felt, at least there, that this is end of life. And so my doctor, my medical oncologist was very happy taking me around to the hospital to see, somebody comes like this. And where was the option? He was in a navy, and there was something happening which was something which he couldn't come back to Bombay, and I had to do this by myself. uh, of course, to help, my husband took away my son, so that at least that attention is given to him with him. And you have a basic maid and all that kind of stuff to just be there. So I used to go to get chemo, and this was my hospital drill, meeting everybody, and then undergoing the chemo drill that we know it's like a long whole day process. And first cycle, of course, my husband was there, and the hospital, without naming, forgot to give me antiemetic, which is anti-nausea, nausea, and chemo has all those side effects. Nowadays, there are a lot of targeted therapies, but those days, in simple language, कीमोथेरेपी को नॉर्मल और abnormal सेल के बीच में डिफरेंस नहीं पता. So it's acting on both cells, so there are side effects. I was taken back to the hospital, put on saline, etc. But still, I went to work the third day. Um, I used to live in Kolaba. I used to drive to Andheri, and I used to leave office at 8:39. This is what I did between cycles. So I was able to work efficiently, let me put it. So there was no issue. And this happened for 6 cycles. And then radiotherapy. Jaslok, I used to drive to Andheri, come to Jaslok for my afternoon therapy because they have slots till 3 o'clock for radiotherapy, go back to office because there was so much work left for 1 month. So this is what I did. While people talk, I think I have one thing, my friend called Chavi, and I can't forget that. She said, in this, whole thing about, making it happen in life and never giving up, where is the self-care and self-help that you need to focus on?
Yeah.
But for me, that work kept me so busy that I sometimes even forgot that I was suffering of so-called cancer, and I was getting treated by all these drugs. And
I hear you. I hear
and
you.
and something which very commonly happens, of course, we lose hair. I told you that not all therapies are targeted, so all growing cells get affected, right? So baal to nikal jate hain, and for women it's a big thing. For a woman like me, where a lot of things it didn't affect me that emotionally, but I remember I took permission and I went for a conference to Dubai, and ek first cycle hi hua tha. And when I got up from, and this I think you would hear Tahira from many women, it just impacts. Okay, so when I got up, there was bed of hair. It's something for a woman. And why I told you the previous piece before this is, I was taking it so well, and positive, and making, it was just like another disease,
and it just hits you.
It just crazy. But because I understood this, I had made a natural hair wig which looked like my short hair. But there was just after first cycle or something. So it's not that you lost money, but it's like logs of hair, and that's what a lot of women get psyched about.
Yes.
If you talk to the women, you would know this is a big issue in their mind. They get very psyched.
Of course, with Indian women especially, हमें बहुत इम्पोर्टेंस दी जाती है बालों को, एंड लड़की की खूबसूरती उसके लंबे बालों, घने बालों से, कितने शैम्पूज और कितने ऑयल्स इसी को लेके दिखे मार्केट में,
बड़ी ब्रांड्स बन रहे हैं.
But that was our psyche, and
But I went to the same hairdresser, and she made the same hairstyle out of that wig because it was pretty much there. And then I got compliments for all the 9 months. Rest is history of my lovely hair and the planes and this and the haircut.
That's so lovely. I also want to come to that all of us have various options also. Some people, how was it for you since you also went through chemotherapy? You must have lost your hair as well.
So, for me, I was very much prepared that I'm going to lose my hair, and I had long hair when my treatment was to start, and like almost waist length. So I knew that they're going to fall, and I got them short, cut very short, like a wedge cut. Later on, I realized that I should have probably shaved them off completely. Because even when they fell and they come in, they came
They
in my
come in
hands in
clumps, they
chunks.
don't,
Yeah.
yeah, it is
So
just a very
Yeah.
that
disheartening
particular
feeling.
2-3 days, yes, were emotionally, very, very down,
Draining,
because you're
yeah.
seeing chunks of hair in your hand.
Mm.
But I have worn wig only twice in all of those 6 to 8 months that I
Right.
had chemo. I roamed around just like that mostly, or
Right.
I just tied a scarf on my head.
Right.
I was never very comfortable with the wig. Just
Right.
once on a family wedding, because you have your in-laws and everyone around, and
Yeah.
everyone didn't know what
Oh,
I
the
was going
wedding.
through.
Yeah.
So that
Once you
time,
wore.
and another one time, I remember that day was very emotional for me. I had gone to pick up my son from school, and I did not want everybody in his school to know, because then the focus comes on the child also, that
Right.
his mom is going through this.
Right.
So I wore that wig and I went and I showed the ID card to the guard, and he said, no, but this is not you.
Yeah.
I said, look carefully, this is me. He said, no, you don't look like his mother. That was one time when I felt very emotional because of loss of hair, when people can't
I
recognize
know.
you as your
I
son's
know.
mom.
Oh,
But other
I'm
than
so
that,
sorry.
I have been pretty much okay with it.
Yeah, actually, the
Only,
treatments and all are still fine. It's these emotional moments,
yeah,
and I think a lot of women and a lot of families will also sort of connect to it कि जो emotional चीजें हैं ये ज्यादा दिल को छूती
हाँ,
हैं. तो
बिल्कुल.
कैसे अपने आप को हम sensitize कर सकते हैं और लोगों को sensitize कर सकते हैं? I think we need to talk about that. I also have one thing to share. So when I was given my chemotherapy, so we always try to look. I just heard a line that human beings are hopelessly hopeful. Till the end, you'll be hopeful कि कुछ तो हो जाएगा. And so the doctor said that one in I don't know how many million cases उनके बाल नहीं गिरे थे. I was convinced कि मेरे बाल नहीं गिरे. But that conviction took me to at least the 4th or the 5th cycle. So they were
that's
shedding,
nice.
and but then after that, everything just started coming off, and that's a little more depressing when you're just running your hand
Yeah.
through.
Yeah,
अपने
that's
जुल्फे लहराओ तो लहराने को कुछ बचा ही नहीं है.
हाँ.
हाथों में ही आई जा रहा है
Yeah,
सब कुछ.
true.
So that's the time even I also called for an ustra. So madam, he was like, madam, मैं कौन सा blow dryer लेके आऊँ? आज tongs करेंगे, आज ये करेंगे. मैंने कहा आज तो ustra लेके आ भाई. आज अलग hair style होने वाला है. So when he shaved and everything, and of course you give yourself the confidence, and there are various things that people resort to. There is family. I'm sure you had tremendous family support. There are a lot of philosophies, religion, all these things sort of give you strength. So I had my own source of strength. But coming to my very, very close friend's wedding was there. And her wedding is something that we all were looking forward to for a very long time. And people know her. Her name is Neeti Mohan. So she is a singer. An amazing human being. तो उसकी शादी हो रही है हैदराबाद में और मैं यहाँ पर गंजू पटेल बनी हुई हूँ and I want to wear all the beautiful dresses and everything and somehow I wasn't comfortable with the wig. I got my wig made because you don't know what you're going for, right? कि क्या, how are you going to look? No one. So my friend and me, we have done all stupid things. So me and my friend, we opened up an app and उसमें दिखाते हैं when you go bald, when you have red hair, pink hair. I was like, how will I look? It was completely different from what that thing did. And then I had got a wig prepared and but never took to it. Got a lot of scars. My friend was coming from Dubai, so like 12 because there a lot of people wear a lot of hijabs and so I was like, ठीक है अब मैं अपना धर्म भी change कर लूंगी. अब I'm Tahira नाम तो है ही है. I will live my part. But even that also didn't go well. And then when I was just without anything, I felt more comfortable. And so I attended my very good friend's wedding with all the lehengas and cholis. But I had sports shoes and I had a ball look. So I think it's how you feel and how your environment supports you. And I could see people not looking at me. Actually, that doesn't help. When people look at you from a place of empathy and as a victim, oh, ये क्या हो गया? जिंदगी बर्बाद हो गई. And in fact, I feel like telling them, यार तुम जाओ यार, मैं ठीक हूँ. So
you don't need extra attention that time.
Because you're not feeling it that way.
Absolutely.
And so I want to understand Where did you get that source of strength? What was the source of strength for you, and what was that source of strength for you? We'll start with you first.
So, like I mentioned before, that when I was going to my parents' place to tell them that I've been diagnosed with cancer,
Don't tell me it was your husband. उनको तो बेचारों को खुद
हाँ
जरूरत
नहीं
पड़ी
नहीं
हुई थी.
उनको तो थी. But when I went to my place, and we had three sisters. One is in US. She was in US only then. My younger sister, she's 13 years younger to me. So like our baby. And my parents, they were of course crying. They were so emotional, and I remember hugging them and telling them that I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
While I had not seen anybody go through cancer, but somehow I had this very strong faith that I'm going to be okay. So those thoughts.
Where did that faith come from? I want to understand. Where was that wave of optimism? Because a lot of people are going through it right now. They really want to understand how do they generate hope, and what should they hang on by? What is it that gave you so much of strength?
So two, three things. One, I accepted it right when I was told.
Acceptance.
Acceptance. Very, very important. Because as soon as you accept, healing starts, Whether it is physical healing, it is emotional healing, it is moving towards your action points. But as soon as you accept, you're on the right road with the right direction.
Right.
So acceptance came to me naturally. Like the moment I knew, I accepted that this is what it is. And rather, the reason why we went to our parents' place was to talk to them about what next. My father is a HR consultant, and to certain hospitals also. So I knew that we could have information from him, So the right then when I knew, it started in my mind that what are the next steps, you know. So one was that acceptance. And of course, during the journey, I mean, it was my son, like I shared, he was just 2 years old. So I knew that I had to be okay for him.
Yeah.
And very blessed to have support in the family. So it isn't that even if something would have happened to me, then there was nobody to look after him. Thankfully, there would have been people.
Yes.
But of course, a mom's role is something that nobody can fill in.
And let's not even talk about that. Absolutely.
And so whenever, the only time in my journey of this treatment I ever felt low was when I thought, what if something happens, which happened very rarely, because I would cry almost 2-3 days after every chemo, and that was like a natural reaction that came. And I even used to tell my husband, that there's some chemical locha that happens, if 2-3 days after every chemo, because I would just invariably cry. But the good part was that I never let myself go into the thought process, what if this happens, what if that happens, because that is something very easy to go into, very difficult to come out from. So if I am to
define, one was awareness, one was acceptance, and second is stopping yourself from having negative thoughts.
Absolutely.
Because I think all of us as human beings are gifted है, हम सब में भर भर के ये एक नेगेटिव थॉट से शुरू होते हैं, और फिर वो करते 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 यू डोंट, एक तो रील्स में पता ही चलता 2 घंटे निकल गए, और एक इसमें बुरे थॉट्स में पता नहीं चलता कि 2 घंटे, मतलब कहाँ जुकाम से शुरू हुए थे, एंड कैंसर पे ही करते हैं. It's with lot of people. So the idea, what you're sharing right now, is that we have the power to stop that thought process.
Absolutely.
Stop yourself from spirally going down. Yeah. I think, okay, so that's the second one.
I would cry and then I would come out of it, and it is absolutely okay to feel low at times. It is absolutely okay if you're feeling emotional, if you want to cry. It only helps you to vent out those feelings.
Right.
But like what you're saying, important is to stop.
Yes.
And what I have also done, so me and my husband have this dream of settling in Goa, finally after when we retire and everything. So I always used to imagine beach and shacks. Oh my God, that's the life that I want to lead finally. And so I used to visualize this. That
can I please tell you, sorry on a lighter note, गोवा अब जाओ तो मिस्टर सोडी, मिसेस सोडी, सब पंजाब तो वहां पर पहुंचा हुआ है. इनफैक्ट दिल्ली पूरा वहां पर पहुंचा हुआ है. वहां के लोग बहुत परेशान हैं दिल्ली के लोगों से.
I know that, but we are not those types. So I know we'll carry on that culture that Goa has.
After the pandemic, everybody has shifted to Goa.
I know. So I used to visualize it's me, my husband, my son, my daughter-in-law, and their kid chilling
daughter-in-law?
Hogi na in future. So I used to imagine.
I literally got a shock. She has a daughter-in-law. She looks like this. This is beyond Botox or fillers. This is something else only.
Then
Okay,
we would
sorry,
have
my
had
bad.
another podcast.
Yeah, man. ये छोड़ो, वो बताओ. That is more important.
So I used to imagine chilling at Goa beach with all of us together, just roaming around, having fun. And that really used to help me, and I was telling this to my sister today, and she said, I'm sure you think you look like this only then. I said, of course. Who can imagine how I would look when I'm old? So, but that gave me a lot of peace, to see myself at a place with my family, with my loved ones, at a place that I love. Everybody's healthy,
So
hale and
sweet.
hearty.
I'm visualizing the same for you, and for me,
So
you are
sweet.
eternally beautiful. I think when you're going to be 60, you're going to be looking like
I
this
know.
with just few strands of
I
white
agree,
hair,
which
and
I
I think
already
this
have.
is what it's going to be in this beautiful beach life. So I think great affirmations. If
Yeah.
if I'm supposed to sort of concise, make it concise and make it short.
Absolutely.
So three key points that all of us can go from what Neeti has shared. One is acceptance. You've got something, accept. Now the next step is to deal with it. And the second part is stop having negative thoughts. You're bound to have negative thoughts, feel it, but get over it. And third is positive affirmations. Visualize something that you look forward to. That's lovely.
And just one thing to
Yeah,
add there,
sure.
sorry, when because a lot of people say it's so easy to say stay positive, but it's a very different game when you have to do it.
Yeah.
But during my treatment, what I did was that I would read a lot about spirituality.
Right.
I would listen to people who kind of were very practical insights.
Right.
And I did things that gave me a lot of happiness. And I have experienced it that if you're taking positive input, maybe for 30 minutes every day, it starts to make that change in the way you think.
Sure, of course it does. It
Yeah.
does. Of course it does.
So it's
thank
just
you.
that you have to take certain actions towards better well-being and better
Yeah.
mental health,
No,
but
of
it does
course.
happen.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I want to know your inputs as well. If
Tahira,
you're just supposed to tell me some three key points.
for me it was quite simple because I accepted it. I was quite, and I think love for life is the key for me. I never thought anything will happen. I just took it like any other disease. Only thing which probably troubled me a bit was the long drawn treatment
Yes.
against another disease, right? Compared to any other disease. For me, um, I didn't, I wasn't worried about anything else. I
Yes.
never felt low. I was quite busy. I kept it that way,
Yes.
so that there was little time to think about anything beyond
So again,
family,
yeah.
health,
Yeah.
affirmation for sure. There was no scope or room, no scope or any room for any negative thoughts. And I live by it today also. Anybody who knows Ranjeeta will say this,
That's
because
so
for me,
beautiful.
there's no other way to live life, Tahira.
So if I have to take three key points from you, again, the first thing is acceptance, which is
Ab-
common actually.
totally,
The first thing is
totally.
accept. Number two was you kept yourself busy with something that you really, really like.
Absolutely.
So you had a schedule in place. You did not sit on it. Of course, body aches happen. Every case is very different. But if you can pull it off, and if your doctors have given you the permission to sort of step out into the world and work, then do not stop yourself from living and achieving your dreams. I think this is what I get from you.
Absolutely.
And third was positive affirmations. There's no scope for negativity.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of us go into denial phase, and we waste
Yes.
a lot of time thinking, why me? And we do it. It doesn't matter. Educated, uneducated, powerful, doesn't matter.
Right.
But there's something that it's there and we have to accept. Easy said than done. But that's only way to go and be positive and take it on your stride and get done.
Yeah.
And I celebrated. I told you, only thing which worried me was this little long drawn. I was doing too many things and it was little long drawn, right?
Yes.
And for me, it was 9 years of Zoladex every month. It was like,
What's Zoladex is something
I had
like
ER,
tamoxifen?
PR, HER2 positive. My
So was
cancer
I.
was grade 3.
Okay.
So I didn't take Herceptin, right? So I was
you
young.
didn't
So
take
they didn't.
Herceptin. Why did you take Herceptin?
It was okay. So the option was this, and I
Oh,
chose
it was
this
optional
option.
for you.
But
I really don't know actually
yeah,
because I was triple positive as
yeah,
well. And
same. Okay. So and you
I-
took Herceptin.
I took Herceptin.
Yeah. For me, I chose the Zoladex path, but every month I used to go. And sometimes if onco nurse was not there, another nurse would give me that injection and I used to have fountain of blood.
Yeah,
And then I
yeah,
used to go to work. But I
yeah.
think I have been good post that. I have been much better than earlier, healthier. Started exercising, strength training, because obviously
Yes,
with
I
all
want to
of
actually come down to that as well. You know, you both seem so fit, beautiful, glowing, and absolutely stunning. Very
But
honestly, and I
Tahira, I have
mean
to
it.
say something about this. So to your point of exercising, and I said I took to strength training, and I way back because सारे bone टूट रहे थे because of the treatment fragile. तो बहुत जल्दी and वहाँ पे जो उस जमाने में कफ परेड में एक ही 5 फिटनेस जिम हुआ करता था. तो एक कॉर्नर होता है छोटा जिसमें सारे मेन होते हैं और वहाँ पे आई वाज आल्सो
Weightlifting.
लेट लिफ्टिंग एंड ऑल द ब्यूटीफुल फ्रेंड्स एंड लुकिंग वुमेन और वो कहते थे कि तुम्हें आई थिंक सलमान खान नहीं बनना ऐश्वर्या राय बनना है तो तुम जरा इस तरफ आया करो बट आज तक भी मैं
But I think
because that's the love I have.
no, but that's the I think that's the more educated way to go about it.
Yeah.
So actually, that's what I learned just about 2 days back from the senior radiologist. This is apart from this knowledge. We women, it's just that how much ever we have, we just want to share it with everybody. So till the time you're 35, whatever gains you've had in terms of your bone density. So if you can do a lot of weight
Yeah.
training,
Yeah.
if you think you're not going to become Salman Khan because you do not have testosterone in your body, but I think that
Muscle
notion is done
strengthening,
away now. In
yes.
fact, weight training is extremely important for women, and if you can support yourself till about like 35 with as much gains, and then after that there's 1 to 2% decline every year.
Yeah.
Which is not to say there's a downfall. You can still sustain that by doing good amount of weight training, which stops you from entering into osteopenia, which eventually leads to osteoporosis. एक्स्ट्रा नॉलेज दे दी मैंने
नहीं but it's
मुझे खुद
connected
अभी मिली है 3
नहीं
दिन
but
पहले
Tahira,
I thought I'll
no,
share.
but it's
even-
connected Tahira.
Of course
Even-
it is connected
even
because
for
of chemotherapy, right? So you have to get
Absolutely.
your
Even for
so you have
somebody
to get
who's
your DEXA
not
test
been
done.
through treatment for cancer, post 40 especially, you start to feel those changes in the body, and
Of course.
muscle strengthening is a must.
Action heroes to aap. No, I just quickly wanted to ask you, since you've gone through chemotherapy, it's been 12 years for you since your
Yeah.
treatment, and it's been 16 years for
20
you.
years just to
20 years.
figured, yeah.
Touch wood, God bless, and in a good zone. I want to ask, there are a lot of side effects would happen because of chemotherapy. There are different side effects, legs in the pain, nausea, many other things.
Yeah.
Does it ever go away? Do you completely become rid of the side effects?
So one thing that I want to add here, not exactly answering to your question, but anybody who's going through the treatment, please don't go and Google the side effects,
Yeah.
because psychologically you start to have
all
those
that.
side effects.
course.
So don't do that, please. For me, while my general health has really improved post treatment,
That's great.
my stamina levels used to be very low before. Generally, like, I've been an athlete throughout my school years,
Right.
but every time that I would run, like in proper athletics, I would develop fever,
Right.
which stayed for a day or two. So that was to do with stamina, but I continued doing everything that
And it's
I
become
could.
better after the
It has
treatment.
become much better.
That's so amazing. And how about you?
So I have no side effects now, but yeah, after the post treatment, probably 1 or 2 years, there are a couple of things. One is about you cope with a cancer and a treatment. Sometimes radiotherapy may leave some charred breast. Nowadays, just for you all to know, there are a lot of targeted therapy, so you don't even have that. Sometimes you may also have fatigueness, etc., because of chemotherapy. But all of this is something that one can manage. That's very important
And
to
it's
know.
gone completely.
And it's completely gone.
So
And
there's, very honestly, there's one very big thing that stops women from completing their chemotherapy cycles or even opting for chemotherapy, even though the doctors tell them, is because the side effects.
Yeah.
And here I have two lovely women. It's been 16 years for her with God's grace, and 20 years for her since they have gotten their treatment. And one has become a better athlete, and one is an epitome of being positive. And she is like, "मेरे को तो pain हुई नहीं थी, हुई भी थी, मुझे पता नहीं लगा." So I think it's a state of mind, and nothing should deter you from completing your treatment. Because there's a long, if the journey to the treatment looks like a long road, the survival is a longer road. The journey that you have to spend with your
Absolutely.
family, and the goals and the missions and the dreams that you have in your life are far more important than this little brief period of suffering, which can cease to become suffering because of your great life state, and surround yourself with a lot of love and happiness.
And for all the lovely women, I just wanted to add something, Tahira. When we take any treatment,
Yes,
okay, there will be some bit of side effects. That not necessarily mean all of it will come to any lady.
yes,
Yeah, so when we read literature or when we have information, we feel all of this is going to happen to us.
right.
That may not be true.
Of
At the
course.
same time, when we take drugs, if it's working, there could be some side effects. So that's another way of looking at these things.
Of course, it's
And you
good.
can, yeah, it's good.
It's good.
Yeah.
In fact, that's what I told my doctor about the nausea and everything. He was like, good, that means chemotherapy is
What?
working. I was like, साला सब में positivity ढूंढनी है.
But वो
हर
सच
चीज
है.
में positivity
But वो
ढूंढनी
science है, Tahira, वो तो science है.
या
तो वो तो
कैंसर हो गया अगर पकड़ा गया तो पॉजिटिव, अगर कीमोथेरेपी में
Time पे पकड़ा गया
तो
तो
पॉजिटिव. So the idea is
Absolutely.
for all of us to be positive, and very honestly, this is we talking about cancer and we talking about chemotherapy, and if we just bringing it under a big umbrella, तो ये एक problem है. और जब तक हम इंसान रहेंगे हमारी लाइफ में प्रॉब्लम्स रहती ही होंगी. And I think what you've shared with us, the beautiful key points, I think all of us can extend these key points to every aspect of our life. There could be a financial problem, there could be a marital problem, there could be so many problems.
Absolutely.
And all of this can help. And in between all of this, if you can briefly, two questions I'm going to ask, and it's not going to be a common question. From you, I want to ask, what was your mental well-being? What's the importance of it? And on the last question that I asked from you is, what is that one message of hope that you want to share with the people who are watching this podcast?
So mental well-being is, of course, extremely, extremely important for, I mean, even if you don't have an issue in your life, so that it doesn't get created. You know, it's both ways. I do believe in creation as an example. So if you're very positive, you are a part of the creation process around you.
Yes.
And for me, I was never a person who took a lot of stress even before cancer happened. But it has become even better now because it's much easier for me to prioritize.
Right.
You know, you understand the importance of everything that is happening in your life. You understand.
Do you blame anything or anyone? And do you have a reason why cancer happened to you?
So, you know, when I was undergoing the treatment, why me is not a thought that ever came to my mind. But me and my husband would often discuss, you know, that if
Yes.
something this big has come to our life, there must be some learning out of it.
Right.
So my perspective was always towards finding a learning out of it, that what can I learn out of this if this has happened? And that beautifully came into my life, with a bigger purpose that I do now.
Yes.
In form of the NGO that I run, which is called Yes to Life.
Yes.
And so we're working towards breast cancer awareness and patient support, financially, rehabilitation, emotional support. And the amount of satisfaction and gratification that I get out of this is immense.
That's
so
amazing.
To my understanding, like I am a spiritual person. So if I see it, why did this happen to me? Anything that I can think about it is that we do think of certain bigger experiences in our life that would happen to us in a certain lifetime. And if this was to happen to me, the free will was mine what to make out of it.
Absolutely.
So
beautifully put.
I chose to start this work and work in this area. I left my job and started this.
Yeah.
And it wasn't always a very easy decision, I'll say, because throughout your life, you've been a working woman. There has been some designation attached to you, some earning that you've been doing, and it all changes. But and it's also part of mental well-being that when you're very clear about your goal and when you're very clear about what gives you happiness, all of my decisions now are taken around what gives me peace of mind. That is how life has become easier. It's become much easier to let go.
So I'm going to change your name. You're the Buddha.
Zen. I feel like it a lot of times.
Yeah, I can see. I can completely see. Thank you so much, Neeti. Thank you so much for sharing such a beautiful insight. Yeah, and I also feel spirituality really helps you heal. They are practical people, of course. Yeah. And I can see that practical person out here. And there's a big part of being practical. Even I'm very practical, but I also believe in the goodness of something which is beyond us. I don't know how to put it in words, and I don't even think anybody wants to know. So we're going to go to her and ask her the last bit that she wants to share with the people. How do they find hope?
Um, I think we are all example of hope. We all fought our battles, and I think it was it's something like, we always think what comes out of this thing in purpose of life, etc. But when I look back, imagine I was handling a cancer portfolio in '97, where I was working with patients, wanted to get away,
What are
got
the
cancer.
odds? What are the odds?
Not And to add to that, my last profile was to work. I think we had 100. I had 100 people in the team that time, working across different disease areas, helping patients cope with it. In my profile, before I had cancer,
Imagine.
I had cancer. I mean, how can I not pick signal, Tahira? And with that, I think as an individual, I became more compassionate. I became more passionate, more driven to create something which was not existing in India,
Right.
which is Sarthi.
Right.
Sarthi Healthcare actually has worked with 50 lakhs or more patients
Right.
across India. And also, I think we have impacted people's life from early diagnosis, with focus of early diagnosis, disease outcomes, hand holding. We all talked about the spirit. Um, how do we look at affirmation? How do we look at everything positively? At the same time, how important it is to have family support and spirituality. We all, like you said, Taira, even my belief is same. If you ask me, long back I did 3-4 vipassanas. All my friends used to run away. It comes easy to me. Whether it's Sadhguru, when people didn't even start going for his discourse, I used to be there. Whatever it costed, I didn't care. Of course, there is a belief that there's so much goodness around there, and our focus, and nothing in life happens without that energy power that we probably can't see. And all of these signals were picked up from the universe to do whatever best I could do in my individual capacity, because I didn't have a lot of money.
Right.
So I couldn't start a foundation.
Right.
But I really thought there is industry out there.
Yes.
There are patients who pay for it.
Yes.
We don't charge any patient anything, but there is this large industry who supports us to do this care work.
Right.
And that is what we've achieved with
that's
this.
Just so beautiful,
and
Neeti
can't
and
thank
Ranjeeta.
God.
I think you have turned something which was given to you into something more meaningful. And spirituality, if it ever was to have some meaning, then it's humanity. And both of you are an exemplary example of what you both are doing. You're running an NGO, and you're running a service based company which really handholds patients and really helps them go through financially and in other healthcare sector. It's just so amazing what was given to you and what you made out of it. Is free will. It's up to you if you want to play the victim card, or okay, if it's happened to me, it's happened to me for a reason. I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to make some greater good out of it. And you both are such living examples for the same. Thank you so much for joining us for such a lovely podcast, Hope and Healing. Here's to hope and healing to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tahira.
Lovely chatting with you.
Likewise.
And thank you, Zydus, for organizing this.